the Indian Jawan and the Indian officers to make the enemy die for his country.
8,000, yes, 8,000 Pakistani troops surrendered to 532 Indian soldiers. So, how did we achieve something so brilliant?
Said, what is here? He said, a Gorkha battalion. They said, a Gorkha battalion? He said, no, half a Gorkha battalion.
So, can you share an example where the strategy played a critical role in India winning a war?
Sam Manekshaw was a person of great moral courage. And he said, Madam Prime Minister, if you want to win the war, please do it the way that the military wants.
He cut his own leg. I can't get over this fact. He cut his own leg.
Because the leg was in a mess. I didn't like the look of it. And I decided that it's not going to be useful to me anymore. And I might as well cut it off.
A lot is also attributed to the power of mind or mindset.
Yes, absolutely. But we fought for 9 days and 9 nights without food, without water.
What does the Indian Army do that our Jawans or soldiers have such undying loyalty towards their officers and the nation?
He knows that his officer, his Saab, is right there in front, facing the bullets before he will face the bullets.
Sir, if I may ask a very personal question.
Ruchi, nobody has ever asked this of me before. I will take you back to what Sam Manekshaw told me when I had come to Delhi to get my gallantry award, and he said, son,
so you won both the physical and the mental war.
That we need to train for war, and we train for war every day of our lives.
So how does an army train its soldiers that when the time comes, they are willing to die for the nation?
And when he was dying at Kargil, he said, I regret that I have only one life to give for my country.
Yes. Soldiers fight the war, but it is their wives who hold the fort.
The women who are the backbone of the men when we go into battle.
I want to know what a soldier wants from the nation.
The soldier wants from the nation is a 4-letter word.
Hi, this is Ruchi Singh from Ruchi Singh Talks. I'm happy to invite you on the journey to greatness. The purpose is to connect, share and spread powerful, inspiring messages which takes us one step closer to the greatness within us. Please like, share and subscribe to Ruchi Singh Talks on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It is my absolute honor to have one of the legends, heroes of the Indian Army. He personifies the Shetwood motto that is ingrained into the officer's psyche while undergoing training at the Indian Military Academy. The safety, honor and welfare of your country comes first, always and every time. The honor, welfare and comfort of your men you command comes next. Your own ease, comfort and safety comes last, always and every time. For his services to the nation, he has been awarded with Ati Vishis Seva Medal, Sena Medal. He was part of the first heliborne operation by the Indian Army, first war disabled officer of the Indian Army to command a battalion. He will always be known for his immense courage in the 1971 war. He cut his own leg. I can't get over this fact. He cut his own leg. I'm talking about none other than Major General Gen Cardozo. Sir, it is such a huge honor. It means a lot to me personally. I'm an army officer's daughter and I'm very proud of the fact that my father served in one of the greatest armies of the world. And I can't still believe that I have a legend like you on my show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, sir. So, can you take us through the events which ultimately culminated in you taking that extremely difficult and courageous step of cutting your own leg with your own Kukhri? Even though I know the story, but still it is beyond my comprehension.
Okay, Ruchi is like this. The 71 war is only one of the 3 wars that I took part in. And in the 1965 war, I was a company commander, and my company was involved again and again in attacks, in assaults. We were caught up in an ambush, and many of my men died. I lost my second in command. I lost my platoon commanders. I lost my best NCOs. So I saw death at very close quarters, and it was not nice the way they died because their heads were blown off, their shrapnels had cut off their abdomens, their guts had spilled out. So I've seen a lot of action. And because I saw all that, when I got wounded, I felt it was no great deal that I was lucky to have only lost my leg. So, although people make a big deal about my cutting off my leg, uh, I think it is something that any soldier in my place would have done because the leg was in a mess. I didn't like the look of it, and I decided that it's not going to be useful to me anymore, and I might as well cut it off. So, unfortunately, before this happened, Pakistani artillery had destroyed our medical facilities, so there was nothing. There was no morphia, there was no pethidine, there was no instruments to cut my leg. And the doctor, I told him, go and find something. I asked him for morphia. He said, I don't have. I asked him for pethidine. He said, I don't have. I said, can you cut this off? He said, I don't have any instrument. So I said, go and find something. It took a long time to come. So then my backman was next to me and I said, where is my Kukhri? So he said, it is here. So I said, cut it off. So he said to me in Nepali, he said, let's wait for the doctor. I said, no, give it to me. And I cut it off. I did not, people make a great big deal of this, but I was just glad to get rid of it because it was in a mess. And then I told him, go and bury it. So Pochap had to pick up what had fallen on the ground and he went and buried it. And I make a joke of it now, and I say that I own land in Bangladesh, 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. So, so uh, I think people give me more credit than I'm due. It was something I feel any other soldier in my position would have done the same thing.
I'm struggling for words to honor such courage combined with so much humility. India is blessed to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I had heard that you refused to get operated by a Pakistani surgeon. So, was
That's
it?
true.
Is there any particular any
Yeah,
particular reason?
yeah. Ruchi is like this that I had seen too much of Pakistani atrocities in East Pakistan, what is now Bangladesh, where men and women were massacred, where women and girls were raped in front of their husbands and their fathers. And of course, I didn't see that, but I saw the effects of what had happened. And unfortunately, these people behave like beasts. When they capture a prisoner, instead of treating him according to the Geneva Conventions, you know what happened to Lieutenant Kalia? They gouged out his eyes, they cut off
Yes.
his private parts, they burnt him, they took off his fingernails. Now, it's ridiculous. So I did not want to be treated by a Pakistani doctor. So when when I went to my CO saw me in this condition, I said, "Sir, can you get me a chopper and get me out of here to an Indian hospital?" So he said, "Ian, I have tried, but the surrender at Dhaka is going on now, and the choppers are being used to ferry the VIPs there. So there is no chopper for you." And then he said that the Pakistanis who had surrendered to us. Now we were just at the time of the surrender, we were just 532, half a battalion, and we were fighting uh, when they surrendered to us. 173 officers, 290 JSOs, and 8,000 troops surrendered to us. It is a ratio of 1:16. However, he said that there is a military hospital here, and the Pakistani garrison commander has heard that you have got wounded. They have surrendered to us. They are our prisoners now, and they have offered to operate on you. So I said, sir, no Pakistani is going to touch me. He said, Ian, don't make things difficult for me and for you. Uh, there's a lot. You will probably get gangrene and you'll probably die. So then I said, okay, sir, two conditions. So he said, uh, Ian, you are in no situation to lay down any conditions. So I said, sir, all right, sir, two requests. He said, what are they? So I said, I'll not take Pakistani blood. So he said, don't be a fool. So I said, sir, I'd rather, I would not be able to live with Pakistani blood inside me. Uh, no, I said, sorry, I said, I prefer to die as a fool, but not live with Pakistani blood in me. So he then said, what is your second request? I said, sir, when they operate on me, I want you to be there because I don't want them to cut off my good leg. So after that, I don't know what happened because I don't know. My mind is a blank. I only remember being taken to the MH. After that, my mind is a blank. But what I'd like to say is that the Pakistani doctor who operated on me, he did a good job. And he was a doctor. And I would like to use this platform to say thank you to him because I've not been able to say thank you to him in the last 49 years because we cannot communicate with Pakistan. But he was a doctor, he did a good job. So that's how it was.
Your story of courage brings out the harsh and grim reality which an army goes through war and other operations. And it may look very glamorous on a movie screen, but reality can be very heartbreaking. Sir, I noticed a very important and a fascinating point that you had just 584 soldiers.
When we landed in the heliborne landing, our
Yeah.
strength was 584,
Yeah.
but we suffered a lot of casualties. So when the final surrender took place, our strength was 532.
Sir, it is absolutely stuff of legends that 8,000, yes, 8,000 Pakistani troops surrendered to 532 Indian soldiers. So, how did we achieve something so brilliant?
Yeah, I'll give you two reasons. Number one, that before the Battle of Sylhet, we fought my battalion, the 4th Battalion, the 5th Gorkha Rifles Frontier Force. We fought two battles earlier to that. Those battles were Atgram and Ghazipur. At the Battle of Atgram, we did not have artillery support. We had no mortars. We had no MMGs. So we launched what is called a Kukhri attack. It
Okay.
is the last Kukhri attack in modern military history. And so, since we didn't have enough supporting weapons to support our attack, when we go into battle, the normal ratio should be 3:1. And why is it 3:1? Because in the assault, many people are going to die on the minefields, die to enemy shelling, etc. So when you reach the objective, at least it should be 1:1. So in this battle, we were 1:1 from the beginning. So we decided that in order to negate the less strength that we had, we should attack by night. We should attack on an approach which is not expected. So we attacked through a marsh which had 3 feet of water in it. The enemy was totally taken by surprise. The commanding officer was a very brave officer. His name was Colonel, at that time, he later became a brigadier, Arun Harolikar. He said that doesn't matter. He spoke to the troops and he said, our most trusted weapon is the Kukhri. What I want you to do, we will attack on an unexpected approach. We will attack by night. When you reach the objective, get on top of the bunkers, throw grenades inside the loopholes, and once the grenades go off, then go ahead and saf karo with your Kukhris. That is exactly what we did. So we decimated a particular Pakistani battalion, and that night we took 32 heads with our Kukhris.
Oh.
And those who ran away, passed it on to the rest of them that don't mess with the Gurkhas, you're liable to lose your heads. So when we fought at Sylhet, the two battalions, 131st, 24th, I think, and 24 Punjab, which were there, they were now fighting us, the remnants are fighting us in Sylhet. So they possibly didn't have the guts to come and fight with us in close quarter battle. So that was one reason why we won. Number two is that although now we were totally out of range of our own artillery, so what we did was we had with us an Air Force officer who was able to link with the Air Force at Kumbiram, and our fighters kept us safe during the day. And at night we were on our own. So fighters were telling us exactly what they were seeing on the ground and what they were attacking. He said there's a huge amount of people massed to attack you. We've broken them up. So that's the second reason, that air support, that in the Battle of Sylhet and in many battles in Bangladesh, the Air Force had managed to obtain superiority. That was number two. Number three, we, the Indian Army and the Indian government, allowed the war correspondents of the CBC and the BBC to accompany our troops.
Okay.
Those war correspondents were eating with the men, they were sleeping alongside them, they were watching them, and they were full of praise for what the Indian soldier was doing. Now, their reports were very credible. The whole world was listening to them and believing them. They made a mistake. The BBC correspondent made a mistake, and he said that a brigade of Gorkhas has landed at Sylhet. So we were listening, and the Pakis were listening. So we pretended to be a brigade. And when the surrender took place, they wanted to surrender to us. But we were so few and they were so many. So we said, we have no orders to accept your surrender, go back. then they said, can we speak to the brigadier? Then we realized that we had managed to bluff them that we were a brigade. And we got hold of, on the radio, told our brigade commander to come the next day and accept the surrender. So he came in a chopper. So the brigadiers on the other side said, who has come in the chopper? He asked our brigadier. So he said, I've come in the chopper. So he said, but aren't you here? He said, no, I'm 100 kilometers away. Then he said, what is here? He said, a Gorkha battalion. They said, a Gorkha battalion? He said, no, half a Gorkha battalion. So they got the shock of their lives when they found that we were fighting just half a battalion. And we got the shock of our lives to learn that we were fighting the equivalent of 3 brigades.
Hats off. Hats off. And I was reading, somewhere General Manekshaw had said that a man who does not fear death is either a fool or a Gurkha. I hope I've got that right.
No, he said he's either a liar or a Gorkha.
Yes. So he was right. And I think he was also from a Gurkha regiment, right? General Manekshaw?
I am from his regiment.
Okay.
The 5th Gorkha Rifles. Actually, Sam was commissioned into the Frontier Force Rifles, which went to Pakistan after independence. And then he was on the panel of 5th Gorkha Rifles. But he's a colonel of 8th Gorkhas. So he has he's owned by both of us, 5 Gorkhas and 8 Gorkhas.
He was a very fascinating officer. I had the good fortune to meet him once when I was doing my MBA. So he had come to Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies. So I met him and we were so excited and couldn't speak, just excited. So in a way, I wouldn't be wrong if I said that when war happens, personal valor and courage, of course, are extremely important. But a lot is also attributed to the power of mind or mindset. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, absolutely, Ruchi, because if the mind is not in control of the officers and the men, then how will they fight? And this is what is called morale. And the Indian Army officer is very close to the Indian soldier. And that is why we fight so well. Before the surrender took place at Sylhet, I went across to the Pakistanis. Now there were so many, and they were our responsibility. So I saw we had gone there without food, without water, because we were told we'd be linked up in 48 hours. We had just a handful of shakarpara in our water bottles. But we fought for 9 days and 9 nights without food, without water. We were drinking water from the muddy ponds. We were scrabbling on the huts for whatever grain was on the floor. But that was the power of the mind. There was no question of ever thinking of surrender. So, if the mind was not in control, then we would have given up. So, I will take you back to what Sam Manekshaw told me when I had come to Delhi to get my gallantry award. And he said, "Son, well done." Uh, so I said, "Any words of advice?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Do what you love. You're lucky to be in the army, and you're lucky to be doing what you love. But more important than that is to love what you do. And that means you've got to be the best professional possible." And then he said, "There will be a lot of difficulties that you will face, but don't be afraid." And lastly, he said, "Never give up." So this is what the advice he gave me. Now, I would like to say that when I was commissioned, uh, when I asked for my leave after a year, and my leave was granted. So they said, "Where do you want to go?" So I said, "I've come from Bombay. I want to go to Bombay." They said, "You're not going to Bombay. You're going to Nepal." So I went along with a Gorkha Johnny. We call the Gorkhas Johnnies, uh, to his home. I stayed there for 3 days, and he passed me on to the next family and the next family. And I spent 2 months with the families of my men. So I knew the men, I knew their wives, I knew their children, I knew their fathers, their grandfathers, their grandmothers. I learned the language, I learned the dialects, I learned their customs and traditions, I learned the difficulties they were going through. And there was a strong bonding between me and my men. My men would give their lives for me, and I would give my life for them. So that is the bonding. One of the reasons why we fight so well is the bonding between the officer and the Jawan. Now, coming back to that story, when I went across to the enemy, and we had no blankets. It was very cold. So I saw a truck full of blankets. So I called the JCO, Pakistani JCO, and I said, "Are these blankets for your men, or are they for your stores?" So he said, "It's for the stores. Uh, don't your Jawans have blankets?" I said, "We haven't come here to sleep. We've come here to destroy you." So he accepted that. And then I said, "Once you have distributed these blankets to my Jawans, if any blankets remain, can you give them to my officers?" And he said, "Are you telling me that your officers don't have blankets?" So I said, "Saab, if my men don't have blankets, how can my officers have blankets?" And he came to attention and he saluted me and he said, "Janab, अगर हमारी फौज में भारत जैसे अफसर थे, ये दिन हम नहीं देखना था." So that was a tribute of a Pakistani JSU to the Indian Army officer and his men. Because in Pakistan, the officers, it's a very feudal system. They are very rich, they own a lot of land, and I understand that they are far removed from their men and not as close to our men as we are. That's what the JCO said.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, what does the Indian Army do that our Jawans or soldiers have such undying loyalty towards their officers and the nation?
The thing is this, that the Indian Army officer leads from the front. When he goes into battle and in training also, whenever there is a difficulty, he is the one who's, for instance, we do not eat till we know that our men have eaten. We do not sleep on exercises till we know that every man has got a place to sleep, the sentries have been posted, and then only we go to bed. So the Jawan, the army, the soldier knows that the officer would always place the needs of the soldier before himself. And that is what is taught to us at the Indian Military Academy. It says the safety, honor, and welfare of your country come first, always and every time. The welfare and security of the men you command come next. And your own welfare and security come last, always and every time. We live by that code. When we go into battle, every officer and soldier knows he may never come back alive. So the quality of leadership has to be very high. And therefore, the Indian Army officer always leads from the front. He doesn't say, "Tum aage jao, main aa raha hu piche." We say, "Mere piche move, follow me." So the Jawan knows that his officer, his Saab, is right there in front, facing the bullets before he will face the bullets. And therefore, they know that even if he dies, they have to take up the challenge and complete the mission. So that is what leadership is all about. That you, as a leader, have to set a personal example, whether it is in training, whether it is, and therefore it also needs not only courage, physical courage, it also requires moral courage. So the Jawan knows that whatever happens, his Saab will be there ahead of him. How can he lag behind? That is why we are so successful in battle.
Sir, if I may ask a very personal question. You took a very brave step during the heat of the battle. However, after you were evacuated and had time to reflect, you would have realized that this incident would impact you throughout your life. So, what were your thoughts during that time?
A very valid question, Ruchi. Nobody has ever asked this of me before. Uh, Once I left the battlefield and I was in hospital, I was taken to an ADS, Advanced Dressing Station, and I was alone over there. And at that time, I began to think about what was going to be my future, what was going to be the effect on my wife and my children. What is our future? And the future was very bleak. We were told at that time, uh, did not know whether the army would keep us or would send us home. Later on, we came to know that yes, you can serve if you want to. You could choose to be invalided out, or you can stay. If you get invalided out, you would get a lot of concessions. You'll get a war injury pay of the pay you were drawing at the time you got wounded. You get free education for your children. You might get a gas agency. You get agricultural land. A lot of things were offered to us. But we didn't join the army for wealth. We didn't join the army for money. We joined the army for a way of life. We joined the army because we wanted to serve the country, serve its people, and uh, be an example to all other armies of the world. And now we were faced with this situation that after this great victory, we were being left behind, that there was no future for us. We were told, if you stay, then you can never command troops. And the maximum rank you can reach is that of a brigadier, and that too only on the staff. So basically, what was offered to us is that I would be a babu in uniform, which I wasn't prepared to accept. I said, we have joined the army to command troops, we have joined the army for the way of life, but serving in an office the rest of my life, I would not have joined the army, I would have gone somewhere else.
Yes.
So these are the thoughts which worried us for a long time. And at one stage, I was thinking, oh my gosh, uh, we fought a great war, we got a great victory, but now do I belong anymore to the army? Does the army care for me anymore?
Yeah.
So these are the thoughts which come came to me and come to many of people who get disabled and feel that there's no future. So I decided, at, I used to, one point of time, I decided that I had read a book about a British pilot who lost both legs, who became an air ace. He fought, he destroyed 23 German aircraft.
Wow.
So I said, if he can do that, why can't I? Lost only one leg. So I decided that I would fight my own battle and prove to the army that a person who is disabled is not necessarily useless. He can contribute and he can be as good, if not better, than people with two legs. Now, it's a long story. I won't bore you with the details, but it took me a lot of time. It took me 7 years to convince the army that I was as good as people with two legs. And the great thing about the great Indian Army is that they accepted and they opened the doors for promotion to battle casualties. And 3 officers who have lost their legs have reached the rank of army commander. And one of them was a vice chief. So it was a battle. It was worth fighting. And I was lucky because you got to have luck on your side. And also, I do believe that the great thing about India is that all Indians are very spiritual. They all believe in a God. You may believe in different gods and in different ways to pray to Him, but we are all spiritual. We believe in God. And I do believe that God is with me, that I was lucky. And the Indian Army accepted that battle casualties were good enough to command troops. So I commanded a battalion, a brigade, and a division. And God has been good.
So, what you have not mentioned due to your humility is that you are the first war disabled officer of the Indian Army to command a battalion. You are a pioneer who paved the way for other war disabled soldiers to fulfill their dream of serving the nation. So, you won both the physical and the mental war. So, survival instinct is one of the strongest instinct a human being has. So, how does an army train its soldiers that when the time comes, they are willing to die for the nation?
Uh, you're right, Ruchi. It's all boils down to good leadership. And leadership is not something which happens only in war. Leadership is every day of your life, every moment. So the officer has to train his men to understand that they have to learn how to live and behave in peace in the right way, with the right motivation, so that when war comes around, they are prepared to fight and die. So, this is something which happens all the time. It's not that only in battle a soldier becomes brave. Yes, we brave throughout his life, in peacetime and in war. And today, the Indian Army is faced with situations, counter-terrorism, counter-insurgency, counter-militancy in J&K, in the Northeast, in Manipur. And therefore, it is not that bravery or courage only comes out in battle. It's there all the time. And going back to what Sam Anexhaw said, that you have to conquer fear and you must never give up. So these are things which happen. For instance, uh, when we were practicing, we were going to raid a Pakistani post and we were practicing and we were throwing grenades. Now, one grenade hit the wall and bounced back. A grenade has a 4-second fuse. If it burst, all of us would have got wounded, some of us would have died. So I caught the grenade and threw it back. And
Oh
it
my
burst in the
God.
air. It burst in the air. So now, what I'm trying to say is that courage and leadership is there every moment of your life. It is not restricted only to times of war. One has to stand up for what is right because irrespective of the consequences. And that is what your men are looking at. Will the Saab do what is right, irrespective of the consequences? Is he bothered about his rank, or is he bothered about us? Is he bothered about his rank, or is he bothered about his duty? So if, and I do believe that the Indian Army officer learns this at the cradles of leadership at the NDA and the IMA, to put country before self, put his Jawans before himself. And when that happens, then the Jawan is prepared to do his best in battle. Now, I would not like to say that the Indian Jawan or the Indian officer would like to die for his country. The Indian Jawan and the Indian officer should make the enemy die for his country.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And and if death is what has to come his way, then if you remember the words of Manoj Pandit,
Manoj Pandey,
uh,
yes.
he said, "I am not afraid of death. And if death comes my way, I will kill it." That's one thing he said. And when he was dying at Kargil, he said, "I regret that I have only one life to give for my country."
Yes. Yes.
So when people like this, we take Vikram Batra. When Vikram Batra was fighting at Kargil, he said, "I will haul the tricolor on the objective or I'll come back wrapped in it." And
Yes.
that's exactly what happened. But these young officers led from the front. If we won the war at Kargil, it was because of our young officers
Yes.
and the soldiers who
Yes.
followed their officers. So the point is, this doesn't happen overnight. It happens all along in peacetime. If only the civilian, the government can understand that we need to train for war. And we train for war every day of our lives. If we don't train, then we will perish. And they must support us in giving us the equipment that we need and all that we need to train our soldiers so that when the moment of battle comes, we are ready.
So I'm so happy that you shared that because people need to know that. Personal bravery can never be discounted, but I've heard that wars are won in the war rooms. So, can you share an example where the strategy played a critical role in India winning a war?
Unfortunately, due to poor intelligence, the Indian Army has always been caught on the back foot. But in 1971, we were prepared. We had a strategy. How did that happen? When the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi uh, tried everything to resolve the problem of East Pakistan, she traveled all over the world, met all the heads of state to convince them that we should tell Pakistan to take the refugees back. Nobody was interested. She called the chief and said, "General, we need to do something. We have tried everything, and now the military option is the only option left. So, are you prepared to go into East Pakistan to capture some amount of territory so that the refugees can go back?" The chief, Sam Manekshaw, was a person of great moral courage. And he said, "Madam Prime Minister, if we go to war now, we will have, I'm sure that we will have a defeat. If you want to win the war, please do it the way that the military wants." And he said, "What do you want?" So he said, "I want time. I want all my deficiencies in arms and equipment to be made up. I want time to train my troops. And now comes the strategic part." He said, if we go, he said that Pakistan has allied itself with China and with America. And if we go to war now, the passes are all open and the Chinese can come across. So we should wait for a time till the passes get snowed under and the Chinese can't come. Also, now is the time of the monsoons. The rivers will become seas. The ground will become marshy. My tanks are not able to move. This is not the right time. So give me the time. That was the strategy, that we would attack at a time and place of our choosing when the passes snowed up and the Chinese would not be able to cross. And the men would be trained, our equipment would be made up, and we had all our plans made. Army, Navy, Air Force. We had the time to plan. And this was the first time that the army, the bureaucracy, the armed forces, the bureaucracy, and the politician got together and we fashioned a tremendous victory. So the strategy was of time, of place, of training, of making sure that the enemy could not act offensively against us. And we did a great job.
Yes.
We not only liberated East Pakistan, a new country was born, Bangladesh. We captured 93,000 prisoners. What more could you ask for?
Wow, 93,000 prisoners. I was reading up about that. So it was a very bloody war which we had, but we won, like we do. Soldiers fight the war, but it is their wives who hold the fort. I would love to know your views on it.
Absolutely, Ruchi. The strength of the army is in the women which support their husbands and their sons to do what is required to be done, and they make tremendous sacrifices. Uh, my own wife, I chose to serve in border areas so that the boys can get a good education. But when I went to battle in '65, I was engaged, and my fiance told me at that time, "Don't worry about me, just do your job." And it is the support of the wives which allow the soldier to do what he has to do and to do his duty 100%. And wives are very brave. There was a case in my own battalion when a CO was killed in Sri Lanka, and the bodies came back. The battalion was in Sagar, and the bodies were laid in the house, in the lawns of the CO's bungalow. The CO, the 2IC, and some other soldiers. And the families came to the house, and the children, the CO's children were crying, a boy and a girl. And what did the mother say? The mother told the children, "You are the CO's children. You are not allowed to cry. Go inside and wipe your tears. When you come out, if you are crying in front of the men and their families, what will happen to them?" So and there are so many cases of wives and mothers saying that I'm proud of my son, I'm proud of my husband for what he has done for the country. It is the women who are the backbone of the men when we go into battle.
I salute the immense courage shown by the CEO's wife in face of such great personal tragedy. I want to know what a soldier wants from the nation.
The soldier wants from the nation basically is a four-letter word, and that is love. It is on the altar of love that men and women in uniform face the brunt of battle and disappear in the smoke and fire of war. Uh, and the knowledge, the hope, the trust is very important. The trust that the government, if anything happens to him, if he dies, that his family will be looked after. And if he gets wounded, that he will be cared for. If this is there, nothing more is required. This is what the soldier wants. He also wants he wants the government to, if there is love, what is happening today would not happen. That the cantonments are being opened to the public, that the hospitals are being opened there's no place for veterans to go to the hospital because he has to go elsewhere. There's no money in the ECH. There's so many things that are troubling the veterans today. It's not a good thing. I'm sure the government is aware of this, and I'm sure they will find a solution.
Sir, I love my Indian Army, and I'm sure millions love our Indian Army. Please write it in the comments below if you love our army. So thank you so much for coming to my show and sharing your inspiring life story and wisdom with us. Your story gives us inspiration and courage to carry on through the darkest times of our lives. His unbelievable bravery in cutting his own leg is a legend. But General Cardozo also teaches us that it is not the adversity but our reaction to the adversity which decides how our future life will unfold. He did not lose hope of serving his country when he lost his leg, but once again emerged a hero by conquering his mind to overcome great odds and become first war disabled officer of the Indian Army to command a battalion and a brigade. My life is enriched by such legends, and I'm sure so is yours. You can follow this great man on Twitter. I'll share the link in the description below. And if you want to know more about Indian Army, General Ian has written some fantastic books on Indian Army. I'm sharing the links in the description below. And please like, share and subscribe Ruchi Singh Talks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me your time.